Hello, my name is Chris from Mangahigh, and I'm going to be running today's Mangahigh webinar. So the first thing to say regarding questions, if you have any questions, if I could answer all those at the end of the session, very happy to do that. So I'll run through the presentation now. And as I say, if you have any questions, just put them into the questions box and I'll answer those all at the end of the session for you. So the first thing to say is Mangahigh is a digital maths platform where you can access mathematical content and you can also assess the performance and progress of your students. In essence, that's what Mangahigh is. It provides activities for students from ages 5 to 16, and it doesn't tie students to any particular part of the maths curriculum. So what Mangahigh uses is the power of games-based learning and gaming methodology with things like medals and leaderboards and adaptive play. It also uses artificial intelligence to help us to decide what is an appropriate activity to recommend to your students. So we want to use Mangahigh so that we can ensure your students continue learning in their remote learning environment, continue learning at home. We want to engage the students, and we do that through the adaptive games and quizzes. We want to make sure that you can track the progress of your students using the reporting tools so you can identify strengths and weaknesses and decide how you want to intervene. Offer support to students on a one-to-one basis through our messaging system and help keep your community and the connection together with your students and with your colleagues through using the platform. Now, there are two types of content on Mangahigh, two different types of content. One of them is the mathematics games. Now, these are arcade-style games where the students are playing maths and doing games at the same time. It's not answer some maths questions and then play some games. The two things are linked together. So in the example here, the top left, we have a game called Graphs of the Galaxy, where students learn about gradients and intercepts, and they do that through playing a game. In the bottom right corner is a game for primary students, a game called Little Rain Cloud. In this game, students are learning about place value by moving around the ones and the tens and the decimals to learn how that changes the value of the number. So we have a whole range of different mathematical games that your students can play and that you can assign to them as well. Now the games adapt to the level of the student's understanding and they have medals as well, but they are not our main activity. Now, if you were, let's say, assigning one activity for students each day on Mangahigh, maybe expecting them to spend 15 to 20 minutes on that activity, if you were assigning one activity every day, then I would be using the games maybe just once a week. On top of that, I'd be using our main activity, our second activity, which is our adaptive maths quiz. We call this Prodigy. Now, as I say, if you're assigning something once a week, I'd be assigning let me repeat that. If you're assigning an activity 5 times a week, I'd be using 4 of these activities and 1 of the games. So this is our main activity. The students move through different levels of difficulty and they try these activities in order to, again, to try to get medals and prove that they understand the teaching concept. So to put this together, Mangahigh has thousands, hundreds of thousands now of adaptive questions that the students can try on the maths quizzes, around 150 game activities that you can access as well. All of the activities are aligned to your local curriculum wherever you teach. For example, in England, it's aligned to the national curriculum, and in Scotland, aligned to the Curriculum for Excellence and other curriculums around the world as well. We allow you to use real-time data and reports so you can see the progress of your students and you can message them as well to offer congratulations or support. So how do you actually get started with Mangahigh? Let's look at that now. Well, the first thing to do is to create your student accounts and accounts for your colleagues so that you can all log in. Then you will need to find a way to distribute those logins to your students remotely. And we have a couple of different options about how you can do that, given that your students are not in school. Then once you've done that, it's time to get going. Teachers set assignments to your students. Students then learn by trying the activities and scoring points. And teachers can then track the progress of the students using our reporting features. So let's look now at how you actually get set up on Mangahigh. Well, the first thing you need to do, of course, is to create an account. And if you haven't done that already, just go to mangahigh.com and you can register for a free account. And access is currently free during school lockdown. Then you will need to create your student login details. Now, there are 3 different ways of doing this to suit the needs of your school. The first option is by far the simplest. This gives you the ability to invite students to create their own logins using a unique URL or link. Basically, you send out the same link to every student in your school. They then choose the class that they're in and type in their names, and it automatically generates a password and a user ID that they can see at home on their screen. They can write that down and they know then how to log in. You haven't had to communicate with them individually to send out a different login to every student. You just send the same link to everyone, or maybe you put the link on your school's website. That's one option. That's by far the simplest option. And that's been very popular. The second option is you generate some generic logins like student 1, student 2, student 3. You just make some logins on the website. You then need to send out those login details to each individual student, but the students themselves put in their names, and then they simply type in their names, and then you'll be able to see which ones have registered. In the third option, and perhaps this is our most popular option, is to upload a spreadsheet with all of the students in your school. This is perhaps the thing that's done the most frequently. In this case, our system will generate logins for you for each child, a separate one for each child, and you will still need to find a way to pass those on to your students, perhaps using something like mail merge if you are emailing parents with students' details. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate on the live site how this is actually performed. So I've logged in here to my Mangahigh teacher profile. I'm going to go to the admin option on the left-hand side. Then I'm going to go to the school invite link. You can see at the top it says school invite link here. I need to switch this on. You can see it's off or on here. Then I can copy this link and I can take this link and send it out to every child, the same link, and they will be able to generate their own login without me having to send out a separate password and user ID to every student. Before I do this, I should create the names of the classes. So I click on the plus sign here, put in a class name. Let me put in my class name here, choose an area of the curriculum where I'd like them potentially to focus on, and click create class. Now I've created class that's called test 6 just here. Now, if I have lots of classes, 30 or 40 classes to create, it might take me a few minutes. So why not send the list of classes simply to our support team, support@mangahigh.com, and we'll create the class names for you. That's the first option. The second option is to generate some logins yourself. So again, you can click on the plus button just here, put in the name of the class, choose a part of the curriculum, click on the manually add students option, and then I can create some students by simply clicking on generate logins just here. So I've now created some generic students. So notice I didn't put in any names at all. I've just created some students. Here are their login details: Maths Ninja 176, Maths Ninja 177. Now, I'd need to download these login details, send them out to the students, and they would put in their own names. It would ask them, what is your name? And they can put in their own name. So that is another option. But the most popular option is to bulk upload. So if I click again on the plus sign just here, you'll notice it says bulk upload tool at the bottom right. If I click on that, it will ask me to upload a spreadsheet, and I can do that with all of my students. You could also upload using specific usernames and passwords. So if you already have usernames and passwords for your students that they use, perhaps for a different product or for their school network, you could make the usernames and passwords the same. And some schools have even asked us to make the password the word maths for every single student in the school to make remembering passwords even easier. Of course, that's not a secure way of dealing with logins, but if it's something that you would like to do to make login even simpler, we will do that for you. You just need to get in touch with us and request it. Okay, just one moment. Here we go. So I've dealt with this process now. The next few slides are just going through what I've already demonstrated on the live site. The only other thing I'll mention here is adding teachers. So again, if you go to the admin option and then you select teachers, you would be able to add new teachers and to register your colleagues. So that's the option here. It automatically generates an email and sends it to them. So now you've set up your student logins, it's time to get ready and go. Now, the first step is to assign activities to your students. Then your students will learn by practicing those activities and hopefully getting medals and scoring points. Then you can analyze the performance of your students, and this in turn feeds back and informs you about what the next appropriate activity to assign is. So let's look now at that important process of assigning activities. You'll need to choose a class, go to the Assign option, navigate through the curriculum, and then click on Assign to assign the activity once you've found the one you want to do. Let's do that on the live site. So first thing to do is to choose the class. Now at the top left, you might have the name of your school. If you continue now to assign an activity without choosing a class, then you will effectively be assigning an activity to multiple classes. You can certainly do that if you wish. I am going to demonstrate assigning just to one class. So I'm going to pick my class here, Scottish class. I'm then going to the Assign option just here. I can then navigate down through the curriculum. I'm going to go to Key Stage 2 Lower. I'm going to go to Measurement. I'm going to go to Units of Measure. And I'm going to pick an activity just here on grams and kilograms. Now, before I assign the activity, I might want to play the activity. Now, there are two really good reasons for playing the activity. One, of course, is I want to check to see if the questions are appropriate for my class. I want to see what they're going to be doing. But also, if I was doing a live lesson with my students and maybe sharing my screen with them, then it's really good idea to play the questions, show them how I would answer the questions. I can annotate on my screen, and in that way, they can get a feel for how to proceed with the activity. In this case, I'm going to simply click on Assign, and now I have some options. Now, I can set a start and a due date. Now, the default is 1 week, but actually, I suggest that the activity being due the same day that it's due to start is a really good idea. Make the activity something that's immediate. It's today's work. So why not have a due date of today? In some cases, you might give them 1 or 2 days to work on the activity. That's fine, but I wouldn't be giving any longer than that. I have seen cases where some teachers have set activities that are due in 2 or 3 months' time. That's not going to work. That simply means that in the vast majority of cases, the students simply won't ever do that work. There is a timer that you can turn on or off. The default setting is off. If you want to turn the timer on, you can do. This will mean that your students are put under pressure to answer the questions in a certain amount of time, and you can decide whether you think that's appropriate. Then, do you want it for every student, or maybe Jennifer here is a very weak student in the class, and I will unassign her and she won't have that activity assigned to her. I click Done. That activity is now assigned. If I go to the class assignments option on the left-hand side, I will see that activity here. You can see grams and kilograms. It's just here. Now, if I'm teaching a live lesson, then I might want my students to be focused on only the things that I've assigned them. And you can do that using classroom mode. This is a way of blocking your students from the Mangahigh site except for the activity that you have assigned them. To find classroom mode, choose your class, go to the class assignments. You can see the things that you've set. Then click on the 3-dot menu in the top right corner and click classroom mode. It's now been activated. For 90 minutes, your students will only see the activities that you have assigned them. Okay, so I'll skip through the next couple of slides as I've demonstrated them on the live site. Setting activities. The classroom mode here, you can see what a student would see. Here are the activities for the student, and on the left-hand side, you can see their panel is clear of things like the games or their profile. And setting classroom mode, I've already demonstrated this with the 3 dots in the top right corner. So we've dealt with handing out logins and then assigning activities to your students. Now, the students now need to practice the activities, and to do that, of course, they'll need to log in first. The login page is set up and it defaults to students. So when they go to the login page, the student option is already selected. As a teacher, you need to select the teacher option. The students log in with a user ID, a password, and then your school's school ID number. And if any of this is difficult or causing any problems, again, just get in touch with our support team and they'll be very happy to help. We help hundreds of teachers every day with these kinds of issues. Once the students have logged in, what they will normally see at the top of their page is the activities that you have assigned them. Now, it's possible they could be doing a lot of independent activities as well, trying things on their own. So if you want to see, if you want their view to be restricted only to the things that you've assigned, then you'll need to encourage them to go to the assigned option. You can see on the left-hand side here, assigned, that's one of the options they can go to, and that restricts their view to only the things that have been assigned by the teacher. Now, we come to perhaps the most important slide, I think, in the presentation here, and this is the way in which our activities adapt to the level of the student's understanding. And a knowledge of this, particularly by the teacher, is crucial to understanding how Mangahigh works and having confidence in the way that Mangahigh is trying to help the students. So when they try one of our quiz activities, Prodigy, they'll try 10 questions each time they have one go. They'll start with the easy questions when they have their very first attempt, and the easy questions are designed to get them going. They are there to maybe teach them a few things. They're there to guide them. Often the easy questions actually tell you what to do. So answering the easy questions correctly doesn't prove that they understand the activity. They won't pass or get a medal by just answering the easy questions. However, if they can get 3 easy questions consecutively correct, they'll move to the medium level. Now, the medium level questions are still a bit easier than the level you would ideally like them to reach. The medium questions, if your student can answer those ones correctly, they still haven't yet proved that they fully understand the activity. 3 consecutive correct answers at the medium level will move them to the hard level. Now, the hard level questions are where the students actually pass, and a pass is represented by a bronze medal. So if the students can reliably answer the hard questions, then they pass. They prove they understand, they have a conceptual understanding of the activity, and they get a bronze medal. If they get 3 correct answers in a row at hard, they will move to the extreme questions. Now, the extreme questions are there to challenge even the most able students in the class. And the extreme questions are where students can earn a silver or even a gold medal. Now, on the first attempt, most students do not get any medal at all. They don't pass. On the second go, again, the majority of students don't pass the activity. It takes most students 3 attempts, that's 30 questions, to actually pass the activity and get a bronze medal. So typically in a class of 30 students, 2 perhaps will get a bronze on their first go, maybe a total of 8 will have a bronze after 2 goes, and maybe about 25 of the students out of 30 will have a bronze medal and a pass after 3 goes. And then of course, those that haven't passed are those who are then struggling with the activity. You can see who those are and you can offer support. So the crucial bit of advice here is to make sure that your students always have at least 3 attempts at any of these activities. That also goes for the games as well as for Prodigy. So you'll need to be aware of the icons so that you can see how the progress is going. The gray dash shows they haven't tried. The red X shows they've had a go, but they didn't get a medal. The bronze shows that they understand the activity. Usually takes 3 goes to get a bronze. They'll score 1 point on the Mangahigh site, so 1 point towards their medal total. they'll score 2 points for silver and 3 points for gold. And I would add that you shouldn't be saying that your students have to get silver and gold medals. I wouldn't even be setting that as a target, not even for my most able students. I would be saying bronze is good. Anybody who gets a bronze medal should be pleased. Silver and gold is great, and you should always see if you can get one, but if you can't, I would never be disappointed, even in my most able student, if they don't get silver or gold medals. Students can also keep track of their own performance. So when a student goes to their profile on the left-hand side here, they click on their profile picture, they can go to progress and actually check their own progress. Now we come to monitoring performance. So you've assigned activities, the students are trying those, and you want to see how are they doing. Now, of course, you can do this at any time. You can do this live. Now, the first part of this is about monitoring the performance of a single activity. How are the students doing at one thing? So this is an activity on, I think it's equations, dealing with equations with subtracting from both sides just here. So this activity here, the teacher wants to see how the students are performing. You simply choose a class, go to the class assignments option. You can see all of the class assignments here. Choose the one you want to look at, and then you'll be able to see the progress in the table here on the right-hand side. I'm going to do this on the live site so you can see how I would do this. I've already chosen my class. I've already gone to the class assignments option. I'm going to scroll down until I find the one that I'm looking for. Here we go, solving simultaneous equations. Now I can see the progress. John Hannah is not doing very well. John's had 7 attempts, so John has done 70 questions and has not achieved a medal. So John has really struggled. I need to be offering some help and support. And I'm a bit upset that he's had so many goes. After 3 attempts, I really would have wanted to be jumping in and offering some help. But in the case of Ian and Ewan, notice they've only had 1 go. So without a medal, after 1 go, I'm not going to help them. I'm going to be saying to both of them, look, you have to have a couple more goes, see if you can get a bronze medal. In the case of Sean and Gerard, well, this looks good. They've both got a medal on their first attempt. Well, that's really good, except that's where they stopped. I should be encouraging both of them to have 2 more goes to see if they could maybe get a silver medal and go beyond my normal expectation of the level of understanding. There is a student who I failed in this class up at the top. Look at Sylvester, 2 goes, gold medal. The best you can do on your first go on Mangahigh on Prodigy is bronze. Even if you get every question correct, that would mean getting 3 easy, 3 medium, 3 hard, and 1 extreme question correct at the top. That would not be enough to achieve a silver or gold. That would be a bronze medal. On a second attempt, the best you can do is gold. So Sylvester has got everything right and not really been challenged. It's also worth saying, of course, it's not just about moving up. Many students will get 2 questions wrong at the same level and move back down. Typically 2 hard ones wrong and move back down to medium level. That's absolutely normal, at least on the first few attempts that they make. Okay. So the next thing to look at is the reporting feature when you're not looking at one activity, but multiple activities. So looking for trends, maybe trends in pass mark or the amount of time the students have spent on Mangahigh. Now, we have reports at 3 different levels. We have school reports, which allows you to compare your classes. So that's useful for the head of department. We have class level reports, which allows you to compare every student in the class. And we have student level reports, which allows you to compare every activity that a single student has done. Now, at these 3 levels, you can view 5 types of report. So effectively, we actually have 3 times 5 or 15 different report types. You should not feel under any obligation to become an expert at all of these. Most teachers only use 1 or 2 of those 15 report types to give them the information that they are interested in. So certainly explore the site, explore the reports, but use the ones that you find are useful for you. Now, I'll briefly mention these 5 report types, and then I'll look at one of them in a bit more detail. The assignment report, first of all. This is simply a report which reflects the progress on the activities that you have assigned to your students. The curriculum report gives you progress on number, algebra, geometry, and different parts of the curriculum. The achievement report is a way to gamify the Mangahigh experience. It turns all the students' achievements into points, 1 for bronze, 2 for silver, 3 for gold. So it's a way to create leaderboards in your class or a top student of the month or something like that. It gives you a point score for everything your students have done. There's the independent report, which allows you to see progress and understanding based on the activities that the students have been trying themselves. So that's anything the students have tried independently. And finally, there's the effort report, which simply measures the amount of time that students have spent working on Mangahigh. Now, I said I'd look at one of these reports in a bit more detail, and that's the class level assignment report. So this is a report on the things that have been assigned to a single class. The best way to view this report is the grid view, and that is accessed with this little blue button here that says Show Grid View. Now, here's an example of what the grid view might look like. You can see the class list down the left-hand side, students, and all the activities across the top that the teacher has been assigning. And the medals show the level of understanding. So I can see that Lizzie has a problem. Lizzie has not understood 3 of the last 5 activities that she has been assigned. And Jens hasn't even tried the last 5 activities that he has been assigned. I'm going to show you now on the live site how to find that particular report. So the first thing to do is to navigate to your class. So I've chosen Scottish class. Then go to the reporting section here on the left-hand side. It says reports. Click on the assignment report. That's the report I'm interested in. I'm going to change the time frame. You can view reports for any particular time frame that you like. I'm interested in the reports from this date until this date just here. And now I want to see the grid view. You can see the option that says grid view just here. So now I can see a picture of the performance of all my students against all of the activities that I've been assigning. And I can see that James and Billy are 2 of the students who really struggled with this activity on reverse percentages. So maybe it's worth me speaking to both of them together to help them. These reports are also downloadable. So in the top right corner, you'll see a download option. You can download this report in Excel. It's color coded as well to help you to see exactly how the students have been performing. So that's looked at that 3-part process: assigning activities, students practice, your monitoring performance. So let's now look at a couple of ways that you might help keep your community together and some of the Mangahigh features. One of them is the messaging feature. So on your teacher control panel, on the left-hand side, there is an option to go to inbox. Then you can go to messages, and there's the plus button in the bottom right corner where you can add a new message and message your class or individual students. You can also use leaderboards to help you to keep good spirits up. There's a school leaderboard, so you can see where your school ranks in your local geographic region, and also you can see the top 10 students for the month within your school. And you can also use the reporting features, particularly the achievement report, to create your own types of leaderboards. Now, you might be delivering some distance learning lessons to your students. I've been delivering live lessons this week, and I'm going to be continuing to deliver some live mathematics lessons next week. I'm actually using YouTube live streaming. Now, that might not, of course, be something that is appropriate for you. The live stream on something like YouTube means that anyone in the world can tune in and watch that live maths lesson. I assume that most teachers, and certainly the ones I've spoken to, who are delivering live lessons are using things like Zoom, perhaps, or some of the other video conferencing tools out there. But if you are delivering live lessons to your students from home, then there are some things that might be of help in terms of how you might do this effectively with Mangahigh. Now, one of them is can be described like this. Here's an example of a 50-minute live distance learning lesson. Begin by preparing 3 Mangahigh activities. So 3 activities that your students can do. One that's accessible for everyone, one that's accessible for most students, and one that's challenging even for the most able. Then begin your activity with 10 minutes of instruction from you. Then the students have 30 minutes to work on those 3 activities. During that time, you can, of course, put on classroom mode, and you can also monitor the progress and try to speak to those students who are struggling. And then you can end the lesson with a 10-minute summary of what they've learned. Now, that's quite a straightforward way of considering this. There is a more complex way you might consider. Begin with the 3 activities that you want to assign in the same way. Still start with your 10 minutes of teacher instruction, but then restrict the time to 20 minutes where the students are working on the activities. Then stop the whole class and have a progress check. Check in with the students and be very explicit and say, if you've struggled with the first activity and you haven't got a medal, then listen to me and I'm going to give you a bit more help. So you're offering one-to-one support or support to multiple students who've struggled with the activity. Then those who have done well, have got a medal on the first activity, a bronze say, they can continue to try and get silver and gold medals or go on to the extension activities. So if you like, you're pausing the class to bring everyone back together halfway through the lesson or 60% of the way through the lesson. Now that can be a far more efficient and effective way of using the time that you have. Of course, you may not be teaching a live lesson. You may have to teach in an asynchronous way, which means that you're setting activities and the students could be doing those at any time before the due date. Again, assign the 3 activities that you want them to do, maybe just 2 or even 1. 1 is fine if that's all you want your students to work on. The students then attempt those activities before the due date, and then you're checking the progress before the activity expires. Those who have passed, you can send words of encouragement to them, encourage them to try for higher medals or try the extension activities. And those who've not got a medal, say there's another day to go and you can see someone who's tried it 3 times, you can reach out to them, try and offer some help and support, maybe even set them something different if they've really struggled with the activity that you have already assigned. So I'm going to end with some tips and some best practices. My first suggestion, and I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, is to make sure that your students always have at least 3 attempts at any one activity. So make sure that this becomes almost a mantra for your students. Don't assign too many activities, assign 3 at most. 1 or 2 is fine. 3 at most that are due at the same time. If you want to assign lots of activities at the same time while you're sitting down at your computer so that you can be efficient, there's no harm in assigning 10 or 20 activities, but set the due dates in the future. Stagger the due dates, stagger the set dates so that the students don't see all of the activities suddenly there for them to do. Set a due date that's only 1 or 2 days in the future, or even just today, so that the students don't simply think, oh, this is the work that I've got to do over the next few months. If you do that, many of the students won't do those activities. Make sure they're not spending too long on Mangahigh. You can always check the effort report to see how long they're spending. If they're spending 3 hours a day on Mangahigh, that's probably a little bit unhealthy. They have got other activities they should be doing and other topics, other subjects. You can monitor the assignment report. This is perhaps the most powerful report to give insights on the progress on the activities that you are most interested in. And of course, use classroom mode if you're delivering live lessons. Now, speaking as an ex-teacher, I also try to think about some of the things that would be top of my mind each morning when I'm thinking about how to go about communicating with my students, given that I would have been at home and they would have been at home too. So these are the sorts of things which I think it's worth keeping at the forefront of your mind. First, set clear expectations. Obviously, we do this when we're teachers, when we're in class, but if the instructions aren't clear to the students, they can of course come and speak to us. In this scenario of school shutdowns, they can't do that. So I think expectations have to be even clearer than they would normally be. But of course, we need to be realistic and flexible. Students are in lots of different situations, lots of different home situations. Keeping a schedule that always runs in a similar way, even as close as possible following the school routine. I've spoken to lots of teachers who've told me that this is the case, that they're actually running the school timetable, at least trying to run that and giving the students some structure. Try and maintain regular communication. Students are used to talking to teachers, many times a day, and suddenly that's gone to zero unless you're reaching out and communicating with them. So keeping regular communication with students, I think, is important. But I think that contact time needs to be short and it needs to be impactful. If it's too long, of course, you're missing out on contacting many other students. So it has to be short and it has to be meaningful. And that, I think, is the best way to keep students, apologies, move back a slide. That's the best way really to keep the students feeling like they've got support. And of course, plan ahead. One of the biggest areas, certainly for me as an ex-teacher in class, was dealing with extension work. The most able students in the class are often the ones that are most compliant and the quietest, and often it's easy to forget about those. Providing resources for the least able perhaps is understandably the main additional focus on being prepared, but I think Mangahigh makes it so easy to set extension activity. There's not really any good reason why the most able students shouldn't have the same opportunities to try extra work as well. So that just about concludes the webinar for today. Thank you so much. I'll answer some questions in a few moments, but if you have any questions that aren't answered today, or if you need any more help or support, please don't struggle on your own trying to upload students if your uploader doesn't work, or register a colleague if they've already registered at another school, and don't try and deal with those kinds of issues. Just email our support team, support@mangahigh.com.